everyone, my name is Amber. Welcome back to my channel, Amber Reads Romance. I am back with another Rina Kent vlog. I've been reading her whole backlist to get to the Legacy of God series, and I'm finally almost done with it. So it's been a long journey. It's been a lot of vlogging. If you've been watching these, I really appreciate you. Thank you for tuning into all these vlogs. But I'm trying to get these last two books finished before the end of the year. I'm not sure when I'm going to post this vlog, but also in this vlog, I'm actually only doing one book because I am doing God of Fury. And this was my most anticipated book out of all of her books and this series. So I didn't know how long I was going to talk about this. So honestly, I'm going to be in the same shirt that you'll see me in the final wrap up because I just finished doing my wrap up of this book. And I did talk a lot about this book. I had a lot of emotions, a lot of feelings. And so I just decided the last one was like over an hour long. I didn't want you guys to have to sit for an hour long, and I'm kind of worried with editing. That's how this is going to be anyways, just for this book. So I just decided we're just doing the one book for this vlog. So I had to create this new intro for it because I'm not doing the two books in a vlog like I usually do. Again, this book, it put me through it, you guys. So anyways, I am so excited for you guys to see my reactions and to dive into this book. So just strap in because I definitely had a lot of feelings about this one. All right, so let's get ready for all my extended and spoilery thoughts on God of Fury. Hey guys, so I am here with my first check-in. Again, in my vlogs, I don't usually have makeup on, so here I am, just been in bed, kind of relaxing. I kind of didn't really get anything done yesterday that I thought I was going to. It was like the day after Christmas, and I just like relaxed, and we had the live show for the Romantasy Readathon, and I just didn't even get to this book. So I just started the book today. And I've gotten about 20% through God of Fury, and I'm loving it already. Sorry, my tongue. I just noticed my tongue right here. I was eating a ton of Gushers, so my tongue's extra pink right now. So just ignore that. Anyways, I am loving this. This book has been my most anticipated book from this series. I think Rina Kent has done such a fantastic job of like laying the groundwork through each of the previous books, hinting at this couple of Nikolai and Brandon. And we don't really know what's been going on behind the scenes in their relationship. But I mean, even in Landon's book, I was like, what the fuck is going on? Like, so much more happened, and there was stuff going on behind the scenes with them, and Nikolai seemed even more unhinged. So I'm very interested to see where we're going to go with that. But this book basically starts off way back at the initiation, which a lot of the books did go back to that initiation or whatever, but a lot of has happened in the other books since that book. And so it takes you back to God of Malice at the initiation for the heathens, and Brandon is there, which I had a feeling it was Brandon, like when Glendon walked into the room and she kind of did a double take and saw a guy sitting on Nikolai's lap, and I was like, I think that's Brandon. But that was him. But you're like, why would Brandon be at this? Because Brandon is very... You know, he's a good boy. He's the good son. Landon was kind of like the charming, eccentric, like, you know, devious son. And Brandon's always had to be like the good one. And in this book, you're seeing a lot more of Brandon having to tamp down his like urges and like have to have so much control. And so you're seeing a lot of that, what's going on internally with Brandon. So he's not this perfect image, you know, guy. Like, he's going through a lot of stuff. And so he actually shows up to this initiation. He's wearing that like mask and everything. And he actually got invited by somebody who basically said like his brother was going to be there, or his brother was going to be in danger or getting up to bad stuff. And so he's basically going there. Him and Landon don't have the best relationship, but he always wants to protect Landon and be there for Landon. That's a complicated relationship that they have. So that's why he's there. And really, it was a lure just to get him there. And it was a lure from Nikolai. So Nikolai finds him and like chases him down. They have some really interesting interactions. And he basically tells him, yeah, I thought you wanted to help your brother, and lets him know it was him. And so he has to follow him to the house thinking like, where's Brandon? Like Nikolai was pretty aggressive, like jumped on him, like was on his back and stuff. And then he makes Brandon sit on his lap, and he's getting pretty turned on by Brandon. But, so that ended up, he sees Glendon walk in and he's like, why is my sister here? And he kind of like runs away from that situation. But this starts a fascination of Nikolai, because he wasn't fascinated by Brandon yet. He was just kind of intrigued. He had showed up to a fight because they do underground fighting. He had showed up, like Brandon showed up when Nikolai was fighting Landon. And, he got distracted by Brandon for a minute, because Brandon was like really worried about his brother. But now he's focused. And he's interested, and he becomes kind of obsessed, kind of stalking him. He realizes Brandon is very structured, disciplined, has to maintain focus and be like always in control. And he's really like, even his art, like his brother's like, your art's boring. Like, this isn't what you can do. And he doesn't let out his emotions in his art. So it's like he's holding himself back artistically and like from living his full life. And so Nikolai sees this too, but he knows his schedule because he'll like get up at 5 a.m. every day and run. Like Brandon's in very top physical condition. He's in multiple sports. He's very, structured and disciplined. So Nikolai just takes it upon himself to start running with him in the mornings and like, flirting with him. And Brandon is pretty mean, like with the way he responds. Like he's even called him like disgusting at one point, which I did not like. I love Nikolai's frenetic, chaotic energy. And Nikolai at one point is like, don't call me disgusting. Like if you call me that again, I'll beat your ass. And, like Brandon's being very like aggressively like, leave me alone. He doesn't like to be touched. So I think that might be something too. He seems to be kind of almost doing this like thing to the nape of his neck where he's constantly pulling at his hair and hurting himself. So almost seems like he's like self-harming too, to like keep himself in control. But he doesn't like how Nikolai is showing up and making him feel things. He's confused because he considers himself straight. He's never been attracted to men, but Nikolai's making him feel attraction. So again, he's going to push him back even harder to not acknowledge those feelings. And so he ends up getting back with his like on again, off again girlfriend and have her show up on this run. And he starts making out with her in front of Nikolai. And he's like, Nikolai could tell he's not into it, that he's not into the kiss, that he's kind of shut down and he's just doing it. And then at one point, Brandon's eyes are like looking at Nikolai, and while he's kissing her, and he gets turned on, like he gets a hard on. And Nikolai's like, calls him out in a shit. Like, I know that was for me. It wasn't for her. So whatever. He actually shows up at the Heathen's mansion one night because this is when Killian got kidnapped, I think, by Landon and tortured and stuff. And so he had taken him back there with Glendon. And so Nikolai was there. So they have an interaction and it's pretty intense. And there's a lot of, at one point, Nikolai is like, has him against a wall and is like licking his chin, and he like wants to bite his Adam's apple, and he's like super into it. And Brandon like moans. And so like he feels like so confused, and he fights back, and he's like, I told you not to fucking touch me. You're disgusting. And Nikolai like punches him in the face, and he's like, I fucking told you not to call me disgusting. Like, I'm not disgusting. So even Nikolai will have a limit of like how far you can take it with him. So he kind of cuts it off. He's like, this little like crush of this, straight boy is over. And so he doesn't talk to him for a few weeks, and they end up, he ends up getting dragged to like, they're like out with drinks by Killian, because Killian wants to be with his girlfriend. And that's when they do the never have I whatever game, And Nikolai just gets really pissed. He's kind of ignoring him. Brandon gets pretty drunk, and he ends up leaving by himself. And Nikolai had left earlier, but he like stuck around like a stalker waiting for him. And these guys almost like beat up Brandon. And so that unleashes the fury of Nikolai. And he literally like beats the shit out of every one of these guys. And so it's pretty crazy, afterwards, and he hadn't heard from Nikolai for a couple weeks. He had like texted him and said, hey, I shouldn't have said that. I don't think you're disgusting for like, cause he doesn't want him to think it's because he's gay. He doesn't feel that way at all. It's because I think of when he was like getting touched and he told him, don't touch me. I think it just triggers Brandon, but like Nikolai never responded. But they have they're getting pretty confrontational with each other. And, he's seeing like Brandon actually like with his walls down a little bit because he's a little drunk. So he's not pushing him away and being totally rude. But he's like kind of done, and he decides, I'm going for it. Like, I'm kissing you. And Brandon's like, please don't, they're out. And like he takes him down to the alley and like kisses him. And it's just going to make his obsession so much bigger. So I'm loving their connection. I feel really bad for Brandon. I didn't realize he had this much issues like with his control issues and everything. And you have somebody that's so disciplined and control, and then somebody that's out of control. I love Nikolai. He literally has like a name for his dick. He can't get it up for anybody now except for Brandon, and he's like pissed off because he was kind of a man-ho. Like he would just do whatever. And he's like always wants to be naked. He's very like always has his shirt off, but he would love to be naked all the time if he could. So he's a very fun, like interesting character. And I think there's a lot more to him. And I just love this freaking cover. Like these covers are some of the best covers, and I'm so sad that they took these away and it's going to be discreet covers, but I'm happy because I got them while the men were on the covers, because I think these are fantastic covers. But anyways, yeah, so I'm only 20% in, so I'm excited to continue. I'm probably going to I want to kind of take my time with this, but I also wanted to finish the next book. I think it's God of Pain. No, not God of Pain. Maybe. Okay, I'm sorry. God of War. Sorry. I want to finish God of War 2 before the end of the month. Okay, sorry. So anyways, I'm going to continue reading, and I will probably check back in with you once I'm halfway through this. Loving it so far. I love an MM romance, and I think it's so amazing that Rina is finally writing MM. And I can't wait to continue. She even had this beginning thing about this being like her first MM, and like how much, work and energy and love she put into these characters. So I just think that's really great. So anyways, I am going to go continue reading, and I will check back in with you in a little bit. Hey guys, so I am back for another check-in. I got halfway through God of Fury. And I am fucking loving this book. First off, like, Nico is unhinged. He's chaos. He's crazy. He's got issues, but I fucking love him. Brandon, your heart just kind of breaks for him because he's got these demons, and something that is making him so, like, have a lot of self-hatred. Every time he looks in the mirror, he sees, like, this ink going over his face and darkness sucking him in. So I have no idea what the hell is going on with Brandon, but there's a lot. So where I left off was when Nico finally like kisses him, And it gets really hot, like really quick. I mean, they're like literally in an alley, like outside that bar. Nico just beat the shit out of those guys, and he fully like goes for it with Brandon, and Brandon brings it. Like, he's kissing him back. He's really feeling something. The thing you find out with Brandon is he's never really been into kissing, been into like sex. It's just kind of mechanical for him. Oh, okay, sorry about that. My mom just left, so she was backing up. But where I'm at is the kiss. And I did really like this quote. And it was, Brandon. And it says, "It's like being kissed by a savage, a vicious barbarian whose sole purpose is to drag out the worst in me." So, yeah, they really get hot and heavy. The kissing is sexy, and Nikolai is a dirty talker, and the praise on this man, like, he's praising Brandon. He's like just alpha, and I loved this scene. Like, so they really get it on, and there's this part where he's jerking him off and everything. I'm sorry, Nico is jerking off Brandon, and he's like, "Get my cock out." And this is a lot for Brandon, who's never done anything with a guy, but like, he likes his authoritative way he speaks to him, and actually just does it. And so they kind of jerk each other off together. It's hot. Like, there's just something about sex scenes that just is so hot. And the fact that this is Rina Kent's first I think is pretty crazy. I think she did such a good job with the sex scenes so far. So things get pretty hot between them at this scene. And then, of course, like, Brandon regrets it immediately. And it's this constant push and pull that he regrets it, is hiding, kind of not confronting his sexuality, denying his sexuality. He has a lot of his demons that he's fighting. So, anyways, you get this scene of like where Brandon does another case of self-harming because he looks in the mirror and like sees that ink in like the darkness, and he hates the way looking in the mirror, basically, which, what the fuck is going on there? And he basically cuts himself. He self-harms himself. So there's trigger warnings for that, because that is definitely something Brandon uses to deal with his demons and his trauma, and trying to bring like control to his life. And then, like, Nico gets pissed off because he still has this girlfriend. He's like, "You need to break up with her." And he's like, "My love life has nothing to do with you. You have no say in it. Like, that was a mistake. What happened? Blah, blah, blah." And Nico basically warns him, "You better get rid of your girlfriend or I'll do it for you." And you do not want this chaotic, crazy, Bratva guy to get rid of your girlfriend. So, and she really isn't, like, he hasn't had sex with her since they got back together. He has no interest in having sex with her. It's just like, she's kind of convenient. So, anyways, so he ends up, it's really cute. There's this one part where Nico goes to his lacrosse game and brings like Jer with him. And he's like, Jeremy's like, "Why are we at a fucking lacrosse game? Like, who?" And he's like, all there for Brandon. He's so turned on by Brandon. He doesn't understand because Brandon's not his type. He's so like GQ, perfectly put together, and that's just not Nico. Like, they're completely opposites attract. But he sees his girlfriend at the thing, and she's just like this attention whore, and she's just like with Brandon for like the attention and constantly taking selfies, and he's like, "Fuck this bitch." And so he goes to the locker room because he wants to wait for him, and she goes in there. Brandon literally like kind of kicks her out, and so Nico gets kind of like pissed off and dominant with him, and so they start like kissing and getting really into it. But Brandon freaks out because he hears like teammates coming, and this is part of the problem, is like he wants to like hide them most of this book, like so far where I'm at, because I'm about halfway through, and like Nico doesn't give an F, and he doesn't understand Brandon, So, anyways, Brandon does end up breaking up with his girlfriend. He kind of felt like he was cheating on Nico, like, because she wanted to finally have sex with him, and he basically kicks her out. It's a great scene because he's like kind of kicking her out, and she won't go, and he's like, I'm ending this, and she won't. She's like, I don't accept this breakup, blah blah blah, and Landon literally like hauls her ass out and is like, get your trashy ass out of here. Get away from my brother. And because Landon always hated her because she like cheated on him multiple times, but Brandon really never cared because he didn't really care about her. So like he breaks up with her, but Nico didn't know fully that she broke up with him, and he gets her at a bar. And he was kind of ignoring Nico, and Nico basically sent him a text with a picture of her at the bar and is like, you better meet me at this location in 20 minutes if you don't want me to fuck your girl, you know? And so he shows up, and it's this penthouse that Nico ended up buying just so him and Brandon could have a private place away from his crew. And she's there like about to suck his dick and everything, and Brandon was like so pissed off and didn't know it, and it was because she was touching Nico, and he was pissed, and he like kicks her out, and then it gets hot. So I believe this one was the scene where they both like, you know, Nico gives him a blowjob, and then he's like, it's your turn, let's go in the room. And Brandon's like, I'm not getting on my knees. He's like, I got on my knees for you, you're gonna get down on your fucking knees and suck my dick. So it was fucking great. I just like, Nico is everything, dude. Like, he's so dominant, so hot. These sex scenes are so freaking sexy. They are amazing. So let's see. So after this whole thing, of course, we're going to go back to Brandon regretting it and pushing him away again. And poor Nico can't take this. It's like so much back and forth. Brandon basically regrets it again and does some self-harm again. So we see this kind of like cycle. And Nico's like the only one that's like really paying attention and noticing, why do you constantly have bandages? What happened to you? Like, he's really like keying in like something's up here and trying to figure out what's going on with Brandon. So anyways, so they like always do this running thing. Nico's basically come running with him like every morning. It's become a thing. And when they meet, because Nico's like pissed that he like left that night and everything, because Brandon always runs away, and they basically kind of talk, and they decide to secretly see each other. Brandon's like, this is just sex, like I don't want anything more, and I don't want anybody to know about it. So Nico kind of like agrees to that because he wants Brandon so bad and he's so obsessed with him. So he does agree to that. But, you know, that's a constant issue like for this part of the book, is like how he continuously like hides him and Nico's situation. So then we have the big fire that happens at the heathen's house, and, you know, him and, you know, he actually gets really worried about Nico, but like Nico gets frustrated because it's like he sees him on the balcony when he goes to like go pick up Creighton when he got his ass beat by Nico at the fire, and he goes and he sees Nico on the balcony, but it's like he doesn't acknowledge him really, and Nico's like pissed because it's, once again, he's hiding their relationship. So I just hate seeing that for my poor Nico. Oh, okay. Sorry. Before the fire, actually there was an incident where, you know, Nico did a fight, and he's kind of had this push and pull with Brandon. He went fighting, and Landon didn't really want him to, and he's like worried about him, but he does end up fighting, and Nico needed to fight because I'm guessing he's bipolar. It doesn't specifically say, but he has severe manic phases where like only fighting and like getting bloody and going crazy helps him, and he doesn't want to take meds, and his father really supports that in him, and he's really spinning out worse than usual. And so he reaches out to his dad, and his dad's like, well, what has changed? What's triggering this? And it's basically Brandon. He's like, well, then you need to like cut that person out of your life because you can't do this. So he plans to do that, but like then Brandon's like hitting him up after the fight and like wanting to meet at, you know, the penthouse. And so he does go there, and Nico and him finally have sex. He fucks him, you know, because he doesn't bottom Nico. So it's a pretty hot scene, and it actually helped Nico calm down and it back to himself. But then again, like, he passes out again afterwards. And it was kind of cute. Brandon like changed his sheets and like set up his bed for him and put him in bed. But again, Nico always feels like he's like going away from him. And so like, okay, so there's a scene which really was tough because he and, Brandon, Brandon and I think it was, Nico and Killian were out like walking together, kind of talking. Killian's kind of king and like, who are you seeing? You're obviously seeing somebody like where it's, you're actually serious about somebody. And he's kind of trying to figure out, but Nico can't tell him because he promised Brandon he wouldn't tell anybody. And they run into Glendon and Brandon out at like a coffee shop. Not really run in. It's more Killian knew she was there because he's a stalker too and shows up. And like, so it's kind of killing Nico because he wants to touch Brandon. He always wants to touch him and he's just drawn to him like magnets, and he like can't do that in public, and it's just hard to watch. And so when they like both go to the bathroom, like he gives Brandon a blowjob and everything. And then when they separately go out, Landon is at the table. And Brandon freaks out and acts very cold towards him. And Landon was like very smart. He's the genius manipulator, psychopath. And he's like, why are you sitting next to Nikolai? Like, why are you even here? And kind of keying in that something was going on. He's like, hey, don't look at my brother. Like, it was just bad. So Brandon basically told him later, like, hey, sorry about that. But like, I think I should, Landon's cute, like, he's suspicious. So I think we should kind of lay off for a little while. And it just pissed Nico off because it's like, you're denying who you are. And now you just constantly push me away and belittle what we have. And he's like, I'm fucking done. Like, I'm done. We're over. And I really did love that scene because Nico did need to stand up for himself because Brandon is just putting him through it. And it's not fair to Nico. And Brandon needs to come to terms with his sexuality and the fact that, he does really care about Nico. Like, he cooks for him. They like spend time, Brandon has a hard time doing those gentle, intimate moments, and like when they're not having sex, but he's actually just trying to do that with Nico. Nico's like my little baby, and I love him so much. So Brandon needs to get his shit in gear and be there for this man because I love him. So, but it was good for him to stick up for himself and let Brandon know I'm better than this. I ain't taking this shit anymore. You don't get to hide me and be ashamed of me anymore. But anyways, that's kind of where I'm at. I'm like 50% through, so I'm hoping I'm probably going to finish this today. I honestly couldn't put it down last night, but I did. But anyways, this is super long for one book, so I think I am going to make this just the one vlog. So, because I can't do another hour one for you guys. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. I will check back in with you probably when I finish it, unless I really need to do a check-in before then. All right, see you. Hey guys, the lighting's probably pretty bad right now because I'm in bed reading, but like I just got so emotional and this book is like just hitting me. I'm just my poor Brandon baby. So, I don't even know how far I'm into it. Honestly, I didn't check, but what's been amazing is like just the growth of their relationship in the time since my last check-in. So, I think I ended it where like Nico basically ended things with him because, he's sick of the push and pull dynamic and everything. And they have like a couple weeks that they're broken up and Brandon like just really falls apart. He is like kind of hitting rock bottom. He's doing a lot more self-harm than he usually was. It just breaks my heart. He's in such a bad place. And then Nico gets kidnapped And, that scene we've seen in the other books, he tries to rescue him and he gets like knocked out and everything. And Nico had like pushed his throat into the knife and all that stuff. And basically they do end up coming back together. They both can't stay away from each other, even though Nico was like really trying to like cut him off and like not be obsessed with him. He couldn't help it. And Brandon really missed him. Like there were some drunken times where he was texting him, and Nico was pretty harsh with him, but Brandon kind of deserved it. Like he really toyed with him and like couldn't commit. But they come together and they have such a sweet like reunion. But Nico is like also like, I'm not gonna do this and go back to the way things were. Like, if you want to be with me, like, you need to stay over. Like, you need to sleep over. We need to, even though we're hiding our relationship still because you're not cool coming out to everybody, like, you need to stop running away from me and stay over. And so they do that. And so we have a while of them really settling in as like partners. Brandon's going over there like every night, cooking dinner. They're cuddling. They're just so sweet together. They're really bonding and opening up more. Like Nico talks about his episodes and, where that came from. And like, that's when he started like just sleeping in random places. Like he couldn't sleep in a bed. And Brandon gets like so worried about him. He's like, you need to sleep in a bed. This isn't good for you. And he's like, I'll only sleep in the bed when you're with me. And then they really like cuddle and just, there was even a point where like they slept past Brandon's usual 5 a.m. go run thing and he was freaking out. And Nico was like, no, let's just cuddle. They made breakfast and Brandon didn't like lose it. And he realized there was more. So they even have like a talk too about Brand's asexual behavior and like how he's never really been into sex. He wasn't really attracted to anybody. He didn't like porn, but like he is so attractive to Nico and he enjoys sex with Nico. And so I don't know. It's just they're really coming together in a beautiful way. But then the most emotional part for me happened because Nico comes home to like their house, their pet house that they stay together. And Brandon has actually set up an art studio and he finds him there and it's like all this paint all over him, all over the floor. And he's kind of like checked out and stiff and not okay. And Nico kind of brings him back, but he's like, what's going on? Do you need to tell me something? What's wrong? And of course, Brandon shuts that wall down. He won't tell him. And so Nico gets pissed and he goes to like the bath. And Brandon comes in and gets in with him, but Nico's pissed. And he's like, I'm tired of being your dirty secret. If you can't, open up to me, you constantly push me out, like, get out of here. And it was so sad because Brandon's like begging him, like, don't leave me. Like, I need you. Like, don't leave me. And he's like, then you need to give me something. Like, you need to tell me what's going on. And Brandon's like tearing at his back hairs again. And he's like, why are you doing that? You're hurting yourself. And then it all clicks into place for Nico. And he notices, because when Brandon was talking about his self-harm, he's bringing it up during his bad phase that he was going through when him and Nico weren't together. He talked about it started like with accidentally cutting when he shaved, and Nico had noticed he'd always cut himself shaving, but like he would shave Nico and never cut him. And he noticed some like around his legs and things. But Brandon would always cut his wrist under his watch and like covered up with the watch. And Nico notices the Band-Aid under the watch and is like prying it off of him. And Brandon's like begging, like, please don't. I don't want you to see this part of me. And I have to read this part because it like had me in tears. I mean, it is just so emotional. Okay. And I'm sorry, this light is so bad. Okay. But he goes, Like, why are you cutting yourself? Why are you doing this? And he's like, because I look at myself in the mirror and get the urge to shatter it to pieces, because I've been haunted by the bitter taste of nausea and self-loathing for so long. I don't know how to live without them. I was doing fine, pretending and putting on a facade. So why the fuck did you ruin it? Why did you come into my life and destroy every wall I built and ruin the lie I told myself? Why do you touch me like I'm beautiful? Why don't you hate me when I can't stand my fucking self? I mean, it's so emotional. Like, this poor baby. I love Brandon so much. And he's like, I can't hate you, baby. It's impossible. And like, Brandon like hugs onto him so tight. And oh my God, it's so emotional. And he's like, please let me hold you like this. It doesn't hurt when you touch me. I mean, this book is hitting such a deeper emotional level than the other books. Like, I mean, I'm calling it, this is probably going to be a 6-star. Like, I mean, this relationship is so complex, and everything that Brandon is going through, and I know it's going to keep hurting because we haven't even got to the part where Nico acted all crazy. And I'm just scared, especially with the stuff that goes on with him and Landon. So, anyways, I had to check in. I'm sorry. This is not the best picture right here, but I just had to get my emotions out because the tears. Like, Brandon is breaking my heart. And Nico just loves him. And there was such a sweet moment where Jared was trying to figure out what was going on with Nico and wanted to tell the truth. And he was just so smitten and talking about how much, you know, he cares about this guy. But Jared's like, well, he's keeping you a secret. Like, you deserve so much more than that. And that really like made me like Jeremy a little bit, because Jeremy does really care about Nico. And I really hated him in his book. So Nico brings it back to make me like character more. Anyways, I'm going to go because I'm going to go drink some wine with my mom. We bought some wine when we went wine tasting in Temecula, and I totally caved. I was pretty buzzing, and I signed up for like their wine club. So now I have to buy like wine every few months that gets shipped to me. So those are the decisions you make when you get a few drinks in you. All right. I'm going to go, and I will check back in once I finish this book. Okay. Hey guys. So I am back with my final thoughts. And it's a doozy, you guys. I had to wait to film today. I could not do a check-in last night. The amount of emotions and how much this book wrecked me emotionally. You didn't need to see me yesterday. You did not need to see me, because let me just tell you, literally freaking bawled my eyes out. I cried so hard. I cried multiple times. But I cried so hard at one point. I had to put the book down and I was bawling. I don't know how Rina got me so invested in these characters. I've never felt emotionally connected, emotionally invested, moved. It has such dark and traumatic things we're dealing with near the end of this book. I've never felt that in any Rina Kent book before. They've always just been kind of fun, good, dark romance, you know, spicy, you know, mafia, different types of things. But this is just takes it to a whole new level. That I like was ugly sobbing to the point where I got a freaking migraine because I was crying so hard last night. So we did not need to see me in that state. You just didn't. So here I am to give you my final thoughts. If you can see, it affected me. So, oh my God, this book. So where I left off, because I had to do that random check-in because, you know, it was just very emotional when Bran has kind of his meltdown and exposes his cutting and his self-harm and a lot of his self-hatred issues to Nikolai. And it was just so moving, and how much Nikolai like held him and comforted him that whole night, and was just, Brandon was like clinging to him. Like, it was just so oh, so hurt. My heart breaks for Bran. So after that, though, Nikolai like disappears. And he's MIA. Bran doesn't know what's going on. He's not showing up to, you know, their pet house. He's not really responding to him, and he's kind of freaking out because Brandon finally opened himself up and exposed what he thinks is a disgusting part of himself. And then now Nico's like gone. And so that was really hard for Brandon. He felt betrayed and like abandoned, and he was very hurt. And really the only reason that Nikolai has disappeared is because he's having another bad episode. And that's kind of what he calls his manic states. And when he gets really bad, he can feel it coming on. He knows it's going to happen. And he does not want to put, you know, he doesn't want to put Brandon at risk. And, you know, he just doesn't want to ever hurt Brandon. So he kind of basically distances himself from Brandon in that state. But that's not good for Brandon. So, sorry. Okay, I had to look at my notes. Okay, so this all comes to a head at Mia's birthday party. If you remember Landon's book, Mia has her birthday party and everything, just all chaos breaks out because of Landon, of course. That's what he does. And he crashes this birthday party. Brandon went there and he was really nervous. He wanted to see Nikolai. And Nikolai's like, what the fuck are you doing here? He's like being really cruel. He's like, has that different eyed look that he's like, I don't understand what's going on with Nikolai. Why is he being like this? And then Landon shows up and crashes the party. And it just makes things a million times worse because he does kind of out him and Mia's secret relationship. And Mia is, you know, obviously Nikolai's twin sister, like his younger sister. Not his twin, but she's one of the twins. But anyways, he loses it and he goes to punch Landon. And that's when Brandon had like stepped in the way and he gets hit by Nikolai. And Nikolai is just horrified that he hurt Brandon. But he also is so manic and wants to fucking kill Landon. And so this kind of just leads to a bad situation because Brandon also did know about Landon and Mia. He tried to kind of talk her out of it in that book. But he didn't really want to tell Nikolai because he knew Nikolai would like try to kill Landon. And he figured it would like run its course because Landon's never cared about anybody. He's never been in a real relationship. So he didn't really think this would last. So Nikolai could kind of see that he knew about it. So it was just a bad situation. And so like he ends up showing up to Brandon's place and calling him out to see him, and he like screws him pretty roughly out by the tree and everything, and like didn't kiss him. And he was like, you know, you need to choose. And he's like, you can't make me choose between my twin and you. Like, I'm not choosing either. Like, he's like, if you would just accept Landon and Mia, like Landon could accept us. And that's a big conflict between them two, is him not wanting to ever tell Landon about it. And basically Nikolai was like, no, like, that's not how, I'm never going to accept it. And so Brandon's like, well, then you chose. Like, you chose what you're going to hold on to. So basically, Bran also comes out to his sister and Cecily and then like his other friends and kind of tells them about Nikolai. Like, and so that was a really great moment to finally see Brandon feeling okay to like tell people about what's really going on with him and his sexuality. And honestly, they were just like surprised it was Nikolai, but they were like, oh, I'm just so happy you found somebody. And, you know, it was just a really sweet, sweet moment. But you know, we get to the part where Landon got kidnapped by Nikolai and them, and he was being tortured, and, you know, Brandon finds out about it, and because he kind of warns him, like, I'm taking care of the situation. So he rushes to kind of get there and gets Mia involved in everything. And so that just turned really bad because he was like going to break Landon's hand, which he's a sculptor. And so like he goes up to Nikolai and he punches him in the face and he's like, we're done. Congratulations, we're done. And Nikolai's like, fuck, we are. Like, we are never done. So Brandon's kind of in a bad place, and he basically decides to return home to visit his parents and kind of get away from everything that's going on. And this is kind of a thing that I'm seeing in like every one of these books. It's like they always like third act or whatever, when the stuff's going down, they go to the parents' house. So I'm like, it happens like in every book, but it's okay. So he goes back home. He's hanging out with his parents. I love Levi. I love Astrid. I love their relationship, and they're such good parents, but they have no idea what's going on with Brandon. They've let him like hide what's going on. They're trying to give him space and to work through things, but like he really needed somebody to push him to come out of his controlled zone and actually open up, because he's dying inside. Like he can't even look in the mirror. He didn't do his art anymore, where he did amazing art with people's faces and eyes, because he can't deal. Like he has severe trauma going on that we're waiting to get to, and when we get to it, it fucking broke me. But basically he kind of ends up telling his parents about his sexuality and really opening up about things, and kind of about Nikolai, and like they're not really together, but he did fall for somebody. And so that was a really beautiful moment of him like opening up and talking to them. I just love seeing those moments of Brandon finally talking to people about what's going on in his life. But then Nikolai basically shows up and then this poor Levi has these Glendons with Killian, you know, and then now Nikolai shows up for his other son, and he's just like, why do I have these psychos taking my kids? So it was pretty funny. I always love the dynamics with the parents after reading all the backlists and getting to know all the parents. I think that really helps you feel more connected to like the family part of it. But Nikolai and him basically reunite, and, you know, Nikolai's like ready to put all the Landon stuff behind him, especially after the ending of Landon's book. And he basically stays there, and they have this really sweet time. Like Nikolai's actually really charming, and like Astrid falls for him, and like, you know, he's just trying his best, and they like sightsee together. They're, you know, being more intimate. Like they're actually like making love, you know, like there are just so much more sweet, intimate moments here that were just really, really beautiful. But, you know, it's all going to come to a head when we have to deal with what Bran's actual trauma is. And his mom's been pushing him to get involved with this, her like art dealer agent chick, Grace, and he's just very not into it. And you kind of learn why. And okay, so this is where we get into it, and I'm going to try not get emotional. So Nikolai meets this chick, and she's totally like a viper and a bitch, and she comes up to him and is like, you're not worth Brandon, you need to stay away from him, and I'm gonna send you a little gift. And she literally sends him a video, and she like, why does she have this video? But she was basically grooming Brandon at a young age, zeroed in on the fact that he had like inferiority issues, sexual issues, comparing himself to Landon. He just felt so much less than Landon. And she zeroed in on that and groomed him and was going to teach him art and stuff. And in this video, she basically rapes him. So it's a sexual assault. It's on page. And Nikolai has to watch this. And I mean, who does this bitch think she is sending that to fucking Nikolai? He's going to kill your ass. But it was so traumatic. I was crying. It just breaks your heart, because Brandon tried to like, he did kiss her, but then he told her no multiple times, and she like covers his mouth and forces him through it. And like, this is why he couldn't handle being touched. That was like a really difficult thing for him. After this, he couldn't handle being with a woman. He blamed himself because he kissed her when really she was grooming him, and he literally told her no multiple times in this scene. It is so horrific and just heartbreaking, because you just love Brandon so much, and to see what he went through. I think this was around 13, 15, around that age. I think it might have been 13, because like he basically cut off his relationship with Landon after this. And he came home that night, like, crying and wanted to sleep with Landon. And Landon's like, who did this to you? I'll fucking kill him. And he wouldn't tell him, but, like, Landon held him all night, comforting him, which just is, like, so... It just got me. And then Landon thought because after this, Brandon thought, okay, well, maybe I'm gay. And he tried to experiment with a guy, and still he couldn't handle the touch. He was, like, not into it. And then that spread rumors. And that's when Landon literally ruined these guys' life, where, like, today they don't live normal lives. And so Landon takes things to another level, but it was to protect him. But he had no idea. His parents had no idea that any of this went on. And he basically started cutting himself after this. So Nikolai sees this, and he, like, breaks a glass while watching this video. He is seeing red. He's devastated. And the most tragic part is, like, when Brandon walks in and sees him watching the video and hearing that video, he just falls apart, and he thinks that Nikolai is not going to love him anymore and look at him with disgust and see him as less than. And he literally takes a piece of that broken glass and jams it into his throat. And Nikolai is, like, holding his neck, trying to keep pressure on it, and, like, he's dying. And so they have to rush him to the hospital, and he's in surgery for, like, 8 hours with, like, a nerve specialist and all this. And so he had no problem showing the parents, showing Landon, all of them, that video to show them what the fuck caused this. And Landon just loses it. The parents are devastated. And basically, once they know he's going to be okay, he's made it out of surgery. Nikolai's, like, reaching out to his father because his father's a hitman. He was one of the best hitmen. He's in the mafia. And he wants to go after this woman. But the dad's like, you have to wait till I get there because this is a different country. There's lots of cameras. We don't need you getting arrested. We need to do this right. And Landon's like, whatever you're doing, I'm in. And so they literally get into her apartment, and they make her write, like, basically a suicide letter, and, like, force her into the bathtub, slit her wrists, and hold her down until she dies. So, yeah, wasn't mad about that. Like, this fucking bitch ruined his life. And it was just so devastating. Like, I bawled my eyes out. Oh my God, it was so emotional. But, like, I was just so moved by this book and the emotional places that Rina took us to. After that, Nikolai's like, you can't ever do that to me again. Like, I can't live without you. Like, my heart beats for you, Like, there was just so many sweet moments between them. I mean, Nikolai's this crazy, chaotic mess, but he is such a cinnamon roll, and he loves. And it took, like, him bulldozing into Brandon's life and breaking down his barriers and his controlled, fake life for him to realize he needed help. And so he does get therapy. He's constantly working in therapy to work through his issues. He tells the parents everything that he was doing. And we get 2 epilogues that were, like, amazing. It was just so beautiful. Like, I loved this romance. I think it's one of the most emotional books I've read this year. I'm so glad I waited to do my top 10 because, I mean, this is going to be in it till I finished out the year. It was so moving. Like, I love Brandon and Nikolai so much. But one other part that really got me was, like, scenes between Brandon and Landon, because he pushed Landon away, and Landon never understood why, and he still wanted his brother. And so when they have these heart-to-hearts, I was bawling. So I was basically continuously bawling for the last 100 pages of this book. Let me see if I can find that page. Okay, sorry, I had to find a couple places. So, like, when he finds out about everything, they're, like, in the hospital, and he's, like, losing it. And he's like, that's my twin brother, my other half. You don't get it, Dad. He's my other half. And I couldn't be there to stop him from trying to take his own life. I couldn't be there when it got to be too much. He pushed me away, and I thought he hated me. All this time, I failed to realize he hated himself. Oh my God. I'm getting so emotional. Like, Landon is such a psycho. He's got the antisocial personality. He's narcissistic. But, like, you always were, like, wondering, why did their relationship fall apart? What did Landon do? Or this or that. And it was really Brandon pushing him away. And Landon didn't know what to do. And he still loved his brother. And that was, like, this other part. He goes, I'd kill for you. I'd shoot myself if that makes you breathe better without me shadowing you. But I'd never, ever hurt you, Bran. And this other part, he's like, I love you, little bro. I need you to know that. I need you to know you're the first person I loved unconditionally and always will. I might annoy you, might act like a dick to get your attention, but that's only because the thought of losing you scares the fuck out of me. And it's just so big. That's so much more impactful coming from Landon because he doesn't know empathy. Like, there's a part in this book where Bran's like teaching him empathy, and like him and Landon are like actually kind of coming together more. Landon's trying to get him introduced to our agent. And so like he just really needed his brother, but he kept pushing him away. And so it's just beautiful to see Landon tell him he loved him. He's the first person he ever loved. And he always will. Like, it just means more coming from somebody like Landon, who really didn't think he could love anybody, but he did love Brandon. So anyways, I could go on and on, you guys. This book fucking wrecked me. It was so beautiful, so emotional, but I think Rina Kent did it in such an amazing way. I didn't realize she could write a book like this, honestly. Like, so this is going to be a really hard act to follow because this couple means so much to me. My heart, like, they have my heart. I love Nikolai so much. He is so like chaotic. He has major manic episodes, but like in the epilogues, you see him try to work in how he handles those because he never wanted Bran around him. And Bran's like, no, I need to be there for you always. So just to see them 2 years down the line and getting engaged and just such sweet moments, to see Bran be working on his health, just all these things. It was just so well done. So I don't think it's a surprise that I gave this 6 fucking stars. This is a 6-star read. The best Rina Kent book. One of my favorites of the year. The like the spicy scenes, those were next level, but they had such a more than just this physical relationship. It was so intimate, and they were just each other's person. Anyways, I just love this book. I love it. I love it. I highly recommend it. I do think you should kind of read the series though, so because it's a lot of stuff leading up to this, because this goes all the way back to that initiation night. But such a fantastic book. I'm so impressed with Rina Kent. So anyways, 6 stars. I think I gave it like 5 chilies because the romances are always way hotter to me. But loved it, bawled my eyes out, and I really kept it together for this check-in. So I'm impressed. All right, thank you so much for watching this. I bet this is an hour-long vlog just doing this book. So I still have to film my intro because I never did it because I didn't know how long this vlog would be. So I'm glad I'm doing it just one book because it's already going to be long. Thank you so much for watching this, you guys. Thank you for sticking with me through this Rina Kent journey. If you have, I will see you guys on the next one.